Hello, Make Idaho Better fans and followers. It is time for another analysis video. This time we're talking about personalized education, aka mastery education. So, first things first, this is the homepage of Make Idaho Better, and I just want to let you know that Make Idaho Better is the easiest way to be a part of state and local solutions. If you want to be understood, if you want people to know your perspective, there's no easier way to have leaders understand that and to learn what other people think at the same time. With just a couple minutes, a couple times a month, you can fill out these surveys and contribute to having your data collected by me, analyzed, provided to leaders, and making it easier for them to find and implement better solutions. So if this sounds good to you, click the Do Your Part button, join our email list, and that's how you get the surveys. Okay, this week we're talking about personalized education, as I mentioned. Every survey has a survey page where all the kind of resources are available. There's a copy of the survey, actual survey here if you want to check it out. The results, the overall results are linked here. You can see those. The analysis is going to be linked here in a minute. And if we have a leader interview, we have it here. And of course, there needs to be a funny, cute GIF on this survey. So this baby is mastering that tiny book. Okay, let's get into it. I'm going to skip the takeaways now so you don't get the punchline too quickly. But we've got a table of contents here, and it's a little bit longer than normal. Had a couple more questions than we typically do, but it's all good. Analysis posts are all about taking these overall results, which we make publicly available, but then slicing and dicing it and figuring out how different types of people are answering questions differently or the same, and kind of comparing. That's where most of the value of analysis comes from. So that's what we do in these posts. But if you are really interested in this, but you don't see the view that you really need, let me know. That's how we make money. So that's like a paid offering. We can give you custom analysis, a special view, or a whole suite of other things that we can do to help you with this data. You can just click this button to check out the paid offerings page if you'd like. Actually, we might as well talk about that or show you what that page looks like. So you can pick the survey topic. You can add your specific questions. I can target specific audience for you. You can even do fundraising, blah, 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 blah. Lots of cool stuff. Anyway, moving on. Oh, that GIF's funny too. It's damn good. All right. So yeah, here's what we talked about, how I prefaced the survey. It's really important. The governor's task force for the last several years has been promoting mastery education heavily as a best practice. And there's a pilot program called the Idaho Mastery Education Network, IMEN. And there's, I think, 20-some schools across the state that are testing this, but it's still a very small percentage. And so this is we're exploring this, but not everybody knows a lot about it. So this is kind of a good time to kind of share information about perceptions. So as I always do, I show the demographics of who we heard from. This is always important because, if I only heard from 20-year-olds, you'd want to know that because, these are a lot different than parents or even experienced teachers. So it's good to know kind of on some of these standard demographics where we fall. So we heard from a lot more women than men. It's pretty normal for Make Idaho Better surveys. Women just care more, it seems like, in general, which is the sad truth. Prove me wrong, guys. Take more surveys. And then on the age, this is a little more skewed towards people in their 30s and 40s. That makes sense to me because that's about the age of parents, I think, when they have kids in the school system, the K through 12 school years. So we heard more from them. That's not surprising me. And then for counties, more from about half from Ada County. And the rest from other counties in Idaho, which I think that might be kind of proportional to population too. But we should get more from other counties. So share it, people. Share it, you Bannock County people. All Okay, first things first, let's talk demographics. So I always ask those standard demographics that we talked about earlier on every survey, but there were some other demographics that were kind of necessary for this one. So first off, how many children you have, whether you have none or more, and how many more. Do you currently have children in K through 12 education? And are you a teacher, K through 12 teacher or administrator? So these are really the groups of people that I really want to know. So I was like, want to make it really easy to compare what teachers think about this to other types of parents, etc. So I was able to do that. I have this data. I can use some fancy formulas that data analysts do, like me. And I came up with this. So these are all the groups. This includes everybody that responded. So there's the teacher or administrator group, a school parent. That means a parent that has a kid in K through 12. A parent, people messaging me on Facebook. Parents that don't have kids in K through 12, or a not parent, somebody that doesn't have kids like me. So we're going to use this a lot. This is going to be coming really handy. So first off, I wanted to know, like, is this on your radar? Do you hear about mastery education very much? And the most popular answer was not at all often. You know, I didn't ask. I didn't make an option that I've never heard of it, but I kind of wish I did now. But those would all be included in here as well. And then, you know, it kind of decreases the people that hear about it more often. So I wanted to look at that by these groups as well. And I was hoping teachers have heard of this, and absolutely they have. So most teachers are hearing about this pretty often. So about 50% are hearing from it extremely often or very often. And only, you know, 10%, like a sliver, are hearing about it not at all often. And I'm surprised which teachers aren't hearing about it not at all often, because maybe they're private school teachers, or maybe they're parents that consider themselves teachers in homeschool and maybe aren't affected by the state policies as much. I don't know. And then school parents, no more than parents that don't have kids in school. Makes sense. And then basically those parents and people that don't have kids are about the same. So that's interesting. But what about how much you understand it? So whether you hear about it very much or not, that's cool. But like, I want to know, do you understand it very well? And it looks kind of like the last chart. So most people saying, or not most, not a majority, but the plurality saying not at all well. And then it basically declines from there to the people that understand it really well. So I was curious of how that looks if you overlap, you know, how often over here you hear about it from not at all to extremely often, and how much you understand it. So it definitely looks like there's a relationship here between how often you hear about it and how well you understand it. So to the point where if you hear about it extremely often, you are either understand it extremely well or very well. Everyone in that category does. Compared to not at all often, you know, 80% of that group are saying, I don't understand. I understand it not at all well. So these are people that maybe have never heard of it, so therefore don't understand it. That makes a lot of sense. It's kind of cool to see that trend. It's like how the green or the like understanding grows the more often you hear about it. That was cool. But what about our groups? Teachers definitely understand it a lot better than everybody else. Thank goodness. You know, they should. It's their job. And that's about over 60% said extremely well or very well, though we had a few that said not at all well or not so well. Again, school parents understand it better than other parents and non-parents, and the other parents and non-parents are about the same. So that's following our trend. Okay, now I wanted to get a sense of like the expectations of higher ed, or not higher ed, you know, K through 12. Like, where do we set the bar on school quality? And graduation rates aren't necessarily the best. Well, it's hard to measure school quality in general, but graduation rates seemed about as good as any to kind of gauge. And for context, the current average graduation rate for Idaho is 80%. So pretty much everybody, well, the majority, 60%-ish, said 95% of students or more is a satisfactory graduation rate. That's way more than what we have across the state right now. So, hardly anybody said that, what we have right now, 80% or less than 80% is satisfactory. That's like less than 10% of people said that was okay. So it seems like respondents are thinking, whether they're aware of what the average graduation rate is or not, that we can do a lot better. We should do a lot better. Satisfactory is a lot better than what we have right now. So that's interesting. But what do our groups tell us? I wasn't sure if teachers were going to have like higher or lower expectations because I just wasn't sure. But pretty much everybody's on the same page here. These parents look a little different, like they accept less than 80% more often, but this is a smaller group, and I think materially these are all like proportionally about the same, which is kind of crazy to me how similar they are across these groups. So pretty much everybody's in agreement we need to do a lot better. Okay, so now we're going to get into like 3 big elements of mastery education. First one being that student ownership of subjects and pacing improves engagement in learning. So I asked that and whether you agree with that, yes or no. And yeah, most said yes. What was that? It's 65% said yes. Were there yes or yes, absolutely. And we had a really small group, less than 10% that said no. So you give kids a choice and they can influence the way they learn, what they learn, and how much time they spend on it. If they need more or if they need less, that'll get them more engaged and help them learn better. I think that makes total sense to me. And it seems like that's the answer for most of our respondents. But what do our groups say? Do teachers think that more than other people? Teachers are really positive. They say, yes, absolutely, that helps. And it looks about the same as everybody else. Everybody else is positive. The teachers might be slightly more positive, and school parents slightly more positive on that than the other groups. But everybody's positive. Well, what's the next one here? Whether or not we should grade on what students know or what they do. So this one is the fuzziest one for me, because obviously every grading system is trying to get at what people know. But it was explained to me that a lot of the way we grade today is based on behaviors. Did you do the things that may or may not indicate that you know something? Like, did you do the homework? Did you pass the test? So I don't know how you get better at grading based on what kids actually know. But that's when mastery people are really into that as a concept. And so are respondents, but not as much as the last question. So we got a bigger disagree group, roughly 20% that disagree with this. And we've got a really big kind of neutral group. They're not really sure. But still, there's a lot more people in agreement. Let's see, this is like 15%, it's like 35. So we got about 50% in agreement on this compared to 20% disagree. So still positive, less positive than the last one. What do teachers think? Teachers think more or less what everybody else thinks. Proportionally, these answers look almost exactly the same to me. They are also as positive about this. Strongly agree as a proportion seems to be less, but agree is much higher. So maybe they're a little more hesitant to go all in on this, but as a concept, yes. Okay. The third one is about individual pace. And to me, this is the one that really makes the most sense. And it's been explained to me as like the traditional education system is time fixed, comprehension variable, which means everybody's going at the same pace. You start the semester, you end the semester, class is over for everybody. And then basically how much you learned is the thing that's different across students. Mastery education is all about flipping that around, where everybody learns the same thing and it just takes people, they can do it faster, slower, depending on how they need to. And then, across subjects, you might have somebody that really struggles in math and it takes, maybe they need like 2 semesters to get kind of past a certain level of math, but they're a whiz at English, in which case they finish their class in like 2 months instead of 5 months or whatever a semester is. So going at an individual's pace, not the standard pace of a classroom, that's better. This one was overwhelmingly supporting. Over 75% agreed with this. We still got the 10 to 15% disagreement people, but we had a lot less people neutral on this. People were like, yeah, of course it should go at the pace of the kids learning. Anything that's just going for this like standard pace, nobody really benefits from that. The kids that are, high achieving are being slowed down and held back. And the kids that are being, that are slower to get this stuff aren't keeping up. So like everybody's losing in some way or another, unless you're like this average kid, which is just perfectly in the middle on everything, but that's not the reality. And depending on the time of the semester, you might be a high achiever or a slow achiever, so it's really not working for anybody very well. Maybe okay, but not very well, not optimally. And teachers agree with this too, more than anybody. This individualized pace is better. So their green goes all the way beyond 80%, compared to school parents, which are the next most positive, which look like they're about 75%, and getting an Amber Alert. And then it's about the same with parents and non-parents. So teachers love this. So do parents, school parents. So they're the ones that know the most about this. Makes sense to me intuitively, but they are the ones that really are in this all the time, and they think it like it the most. So those were the big 3 things relating to how mastery works. And some of them, they range from mostly positive to extremely positive. So seems popular, the elements of this. But let's talk about scalable. Like, should this be something that every student can access? Or is this just, special circumstances? Or is this just for special needs kids or whatever? No, everybody should have access to it is what the answer was. Over 70%. And, the same 10 to 15% saying, no, not everyone should have access to this. So super popular across this group of respondents. But what about our group, their special groups? They're pretty much all positive. They're proportionally all in agreement here. School parents are especially positive, like this strongly agree, proportion is much higher, which totally makes sense. Their kids are in school. They want them to have the best education possible. So yeah, they feel like, okay, my kid needs to have access to this. Yeah, of course they would feel that way. Now let's make it personal. In theory, this sounds great for kids, but like, do you think that you personally would have learned more in this environment? And still big yes, like this is bordering on 70%, I'm saying, or is that 60%? Yeah, it's like 60% that said yes, with a really big group that said yes, absolutely, being the plurality. We've got a pretty big medium group, like maybe 27%, or not medium, maybe. I think that's because we have strong opinions about the concepts of mastery or personalized education, but still don't really understand it well enough maybe to say yes or no. So this is like, I think maybe the people that are like, still don't know enough to really say. So maybe, but still very positive. And teachers said maybe a little bit more, actually, which is not what I would expect given the way they answered the other stuff. There were certainly way more people supporting it. The majority saying, yes, I would have learned more. And, about, looks like 18% saying, no, I wouldn't have learned more. But there's still a pretty big medium maybe group for them, which you'd think since they know quite a bit more about it, they would have a sense of whether or not that would have worked better for them. But are they hedging? Maybe. Okay. Education improvement sounds great when you don't have a dollar amount, like when there's no trade-offs, in the isolations, like, yeah, let's do all the better education stuff. But how expensive do we think this would be? Can we afford this? So I wanted to know that answer. And the plurality was somewhat expensive. To me, I was actually really surprised that extremely expensive wasn't the most chosen option, because when you think about this, it seems like you're basically having like tutoring. It's like shifting the system and way more individualized attention, which seems like either we need way more teachers to have a better student to teacher ratio, or more training, or I don't know. I thought people would be in the very expensive or extremely expensive thing the most, but somewhat expensive was high. So I was like, okay. I mean, I know that there's a lot, like you can leverage technology to do this a lot better. Like it wouldn't have been possible without a lot of the like internet tools that exist today. But yeah, so this was a little surprising to me. I was curious what teachers thought. Teachers didn't really think it was much more expensive than anybody else. School parents were the least likely to say that it was like really expensive. I don't know why that is. I can't think of a interpretation on that. Maybe it's just a random thing. I don't know. But yeah, somewhat expensive. Now I asked timeline. So this is like, okay, how expensive is it? But also like how quickly could it be offered to every student in Idaho? And I was blown away how optimistic people were. People thought 60% of people thought that it could happen in the next 5 years for every student could be available or offered. That's insane. This is a huge bureaucracy, a network of bureaucracies. People seem really optimistic. I actually talked to a local expert in mastery education, and he said we're on a trend for like 35 or 40 years before every student has the option to do this. So seeing this, I'm like, whoa, they think this can happen way faster than that expert thinks. I don't know why that is. I mean, I phrased it as how fast could it be offered? So maybe that's like taking all the red tape out, pulling out all the stops. If we made it our goal to like go as fast as possible, man, I don't even know if we could do it in 5 years then. It seems like 6 to 10 is maybe the best you can hope for, but I don't know. I sure wish it would be faster. I wish we could snap our fingers and we'd have it. But what do teachers think? Because teachers know how the bureaucracy works, what it takes to change things. And the teachers say 1 to 2 years a little bit less often, but their rate of 5 years or less is as high as all the other groups. So they're also optimistic. So are there things that this expert knows that like all these teachers don't know? Or are they just more skeptical? I don't know. But this is a lot of optimistic people, if you ask me. Okay, that's it for charts and graphs. However, the insightful comments, please watch them, read them. They are really, really good. You learn a ton. I learn a ton. I learn like more from those than from the charts. But I have highlighted key phrases that I think kind of, show what each comment is about. And there's a lot of great stuff in here. So you can skim and see which kind of bold sections really grab your attention and read those. And our GIF is Paul Rudd saying, "Give it to me. Give me it. Give me it. Come on, give me it." Yeah, we want mastery education. Give it to us faster. We would all learn better, make Idaho better faster. So the highlights that we can talk about now are, to me, teachers hear about mastery education. This one's not like mind-blowing. Teachers hear about it and understand it way better than everybody else. Not a surprise. However, keep with that in mind, they basically, everybody is as positive as teachers are about it. Or teachers, whatever way you want to think about it, everybody really likes this. I thought it would be, teachers would be in the know, their views would be different than a lot of the other people. But no, pretty much across the board, everybody's really positive on this. And then it just blew me away how fast people thought that this could be offered to every student in Idaho. So that seems wildly optimistic that most people thought 5 years or less. But I hope it's not. That'd be amazing. So anyway, thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something. Share it around, and get ready for the next surveys. Bye-bye.